it is now Republicans, and they have teamed up with a conglomerate of so-called liberals, leftists, Marxists. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to move us, Northern Ireland, away from the rest of the United Kingdom. And, in later years, what has actually happened is that there, in 1998, there was a Good Friday Belfast Agreement, and our politicians, the DUP being the main political party, what they have done is they've entered into, just like yourselves, Richard, a devolved assembly. And those devolved assemblies were introduced into the United Kingdom by Tony Blair. But in reality, they're just like the people in Wales will have noticed, they're a wolf in sheep's clothing, because what you have in the Northern Ireland Assembly is a conglomerate of minorities which constantly goes against the silent majority. And they continuously have successes. I mean, they've teamed together in order to derail our successes, Richard. And unfortunately, what happens is that we find ourselves that, unionist anger, British unionist anger in Northern Ireland as a result has reached really boiling point. Now, to add insult to all of that injury, which has happened over the years, what has happened as from the 1st of January in this year is that, as you know, that Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, and that conglomerate in the Conservative Party, which really don't get conserving the United Kingdom, what they have done is they've put in place a separation from Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom. That's England, Scotland, and Wales. Fortunately, what we find ourselves, the way we find ourselves today, is that we find ourselves on the window ledge of the union. And unfortunately, that, as we'll explain as this show goes on, isn't good for anyone right around the United Kingdom.
You're talking about the union there, and it's clear to me that one of the greatest threats in the next 2 decades is going to be the fight for the union. And we've seen what's happened to the SNPs, Nicola Sturgeon, and their kind of plan to want a second referendum on independence. We have a strong call for, I say strong, it's actually it's not a strong call here in Wales for independence. In fact, abolishing devolution, and the party that I'm with actually is polling higher than Welsh independence. But you wouldn't think that listening to social media, John, and there is, it seems to me as if there is this a sense of wanting to break up the union, isn't there, and an attack on our history, and in so many different ways. Now, of course, with Northern Ireland, as you've mentioned, and it's been well documented on our show here, Rich Politics, we've had people like Ben Habib on. I know he's been on your show as well to talk about the Northern Ireland Protocol and his call to ditch the Northern Ireland Protocol because of the impact that it has, and it places a border, which we were told, an unfettered access. There'd be no border, but obviously, we, like myself, I voted for Brexit, but I didn't vote for this. I mean, how do you feel about the Northern Ireland Protocol? And maybe just share with our viewers, John, a little bit about the impact it's had as a Belfast man there in Northern Ireland, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, well, if we could explain that in 1998, we had an agreement between ourselves and between our opposition, I guess, in Northern Ireland. And, within that Belfast agreement, the settlement that was made was that there was a consent principle enshrined within the Belfast agreement, which provided the circumstances whereby that until the greater number of people would decide that they either want to be part of the Irish Republic or they want to be part of the United Kingdom, well, then there can't be constitutional change. What has happened as a result of what Boris Johnson has done in a totally, I'm going to say, undemocratic way, in a totally illegal way, and in a way that it discriminates against the people of Northern Ireland. What they have done is that they have literally, they've drove a coach and horses right through the Belfast Agreement. Now, what is interesting, Richard, is that, the EU, the Irish government, the British government, and everyone else, and the American government, they were all, up in arms, and they were saying that the Belfast Agreement is an internationally recognised agreement and it cannot be broke. It's written in stone. And, this was the whole, the hinge that the whole Brexit process hinged upon, because they said that they had to do this peace deal, this protocol deal, in order to protect the Belfast Agreement. But in doing so, I mean, let me just say it this way, that they couldn't have, they says, a border in Ireland, but somehow it's okay to have a border in the Irish Sea. And as I say, it overrides the principle of consent, because the British government don't have the right to do that. I mean, it's in the Belfast Agreement. It's there in words, saying until the greater number of people wish for constitutional change and put to them by referendum, well, then cannot change. But Boris, Ben Habib had said the other day, he just wonders, has Boris even read the Belfast Agreement, Richard? And that's what we found it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a graphic you put on your site. I'm going to show our viewers now. And I'm going to read it as well. John is here, look, in front of us. If the protocol or sea border isn't ditched by Good Friday 2021, then the DUP need to collapse. Stormont stating the Belfast Agreement has been broken, and British unionists no longer have confidence that the Belfast Agreement protects their constitutional position within the United Kingdom. DUP, it's your decision. When is a unionist not a unionist? Now, of course, that pretty much says it all in it, because we were under the impression that there would be no border. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. We're not in any way separate, but the actions of politicians seemingly make it look a bit different, don't they, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the reality is, Richard, we'll go back to this principle of consent. And, I was talking to Ben Habib just the other evening on the show, and Ben Habib is a very, he's a smart man when it comes to these things, and he reads into things. And, he was saying that he wonders, does Boris, Michael Gove and co, did they actually understand what was written in the Belfast Agreement? And then he came to the conclusion, well, obviously they did, and obviously their advisors told them so. But yet, for the easiest way out of the position that they found themselves in, what they did was they made a political decision. And I think that what they thought was that Northern Ireland was a price worth paying in order that they could deliver their form of Brexit to the people, the rest of the people, say in England, their own voters, in order that they would get votes in the future, Richard.
Yeah, I think it was a huge compromise. In fact, we got a clip of Michael Gove, John, from December the 9th, talking about the Northern Ireland Protocol. I want you to listen to what he says and then comment on it, because it's very interesting in the light of where we are now, because it's interesting when you look back on hindsight and you hear what politicians say compared to where we are now. Just watch this.
Well, the man overseeing our future relationship with the EU, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove, joins us in the studio. Good to see you this morning, Mr.
Good morning, Neil. Morning.
We should say this is a moment of significance, isn't it? An agreement in principle on that rather thorny issue of the Irish border.
Yes, absolutely. Throughout this year, there have been intense talks between ourselves and the European Commission in order to make sure that we can resolve the issues on what's called the Northern Ireland Protocol. And of course, people wanted to make sure, first of all, that there was no border infrastructure on Northern Ireland border, but also that Northern Ireland can be a secure part of the United Kingdom. We've agreed that. As a result, some of the measures that we were putting forward, which some in Europe had criticised, we can now no longer need to introduce those, and that means that there is a smoother glide path towards a possible deal.
It could be viewed as a concession being made on the British part, given the threat that we had made to break international law. So what have we gained from making this concession?
Well, unless we'd secured agreement on the Northern Ireland Protocol, then we faced a situation where goods going to Northern Ireland would have faced tariffs. And the price of everything from a pint of milk to a Nissan Qashqai would have been greater for citizens in Northern Ireland. It's also the case that we might have faced restrictions on some of the food that would have been found on supermarket shelves. It would also have been the case that there might have been barriers that people would have tried to erect between Northern Ireland businesses and Great Britain. None of those threats now exist, and as a result of the determined way in which the Prime Minister has negotiated, we're in a stronger position to be able to say to the people of Northern Ireland that they are secure in the United Kingdom, but also, of course, all of the gains of the peace process over the last 22 years are secured as well.
Well, I'm not sure about you, John, but I don't believe a single word he's just said, because, of course, the reality now is completely different, isn't it? Because that's not what we're seeing. And, of course, for the people of Northern Ireland, I mean, they must be feeling angry right now at the UK government over the whole issue on the Northern Ireland Protocol.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I sit and I listen to Michael Gove, I just wonder if he's living in the same world as we are. And obviously he's not. I mean, he was there. He was part of what happened. He was the man that secured this deal. And whenever he says that unless that we had a secured agreement on the Northern Ireland Protocol, then there would have been empty shells and goods going to Northern Ireland would have been restricted. Well, I can tell you now is because that he has secured on the Northern Ireland Protocol, we have exactly what he warned that he was trying to defeat. And that's unfortunate that these people, they just barefaced, they as bold as brass, that's a term from Northern Ireland, they come out and they state quite clearly the opposite of what is in fact the reality, Richard. And that's unfortunate, and that's what we find
Yeah.
for most of our politicians nowadays.
Yeah, I was going to say on that, John, I wonder, with this Northern Ireland Protocol, because there's a call to trigger Article 16, which is to basically we want to ditch the whole protocol itself because it's not fair, because it's not what people, certainly those who voted for Brexit, really wanted. And also, there's still the possibility of interference from the EU, isn't it? Because they still have a level of control within the common market and everything else, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, Richard, again, as a result of the deal that Michael Gove and Boris had done, what is actually happening in Northern Ireland is that, it has been said by others, and I'm not going to claim to say have put this statement together, but Northern Ireland is sitting on the window ledge of the EU right now, and we're subjected to EU rules. We're rule takers, and we can't actually change the rules. We have no input into the rules that are being made, and we're sitting in a position today whereby that, the European Union could actually change the rules, and Northern Ireland then are subjected to those rules. And again, something else that I would say, which again, and we'll get into this as we go, but whenever Northern Ireland takes rules, and then, for trade purposes, if anyone then from the UK, whether that be in Wales, Scotland or England, wants to deal with people in Northern Ireland, well, then those companies are actually subjected to exactly the same rules. So they have a vein, let's just say, or an artery into the United Kingdom, and they're actually dictating trading policies within the United Kingdom right now, today, in January or February of 2020.
It really seems as if the UK government have conceded to the EU on this and compromised in such a way, and they've sacrificed Northern Ireland as a result of it now, because we go back to the peace process there and borders and things. Borders are a big issue for people who live on the island of Ireland and Northern Ireland because, of course, of your history. And anything that brings that into question is always going to be a difficult situation. But surely from the outset that this should have been made clear, because it wasn't, certainly when Boris pushed to get Brexit done, which I'm a supporter of, there was the issue with the coastal communities and how much quotas we get on fish and etc. But the Northern Ireland Protocol was a much bigger issue, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, well, for unionists in Northern Ireland, people have lost their lives because of borders in the past. And, I'm a man that likes to think of things in terms of that what you've got to do is you want to solve a problem, you lay everybody's concerns out there, and you try to arrive at a solution which caters for everyone. But in this case, they just haven't done that. What they have done is they've totally disregarded the people from Northern Ireland. They've totally disregarded the political parties from Northern Ireland. And, there's no other way of looking at this, is that Boris Johnson and Michael Gove were looking the easy way out for them in order that they could claim victory to their own voters. But Richard, I'll go a wee bit further than that.
Yeah.
And this is where we start to extend and try to tell people that this just isn't, it's not a problem for Northern Ireland. This is a problem for the rest of the United Kingdom. And what do I mean when I say that? Well, you see, the minute that in December the 31st there, whenever the protocol came into being, and we went forward to January the 1st of 2021. But you see, the people of the United Kingdom, England, Scotland, and Wales, they were all celebrating having Brexit. But you see, what they don't see, and I can't for the life of me think that Boris Johnson and Michael Gove doesn't actually see this happening, which puts up other questions, I guess. But what people don't see is that now that Northern Ireland has been separated, and people like myself, yourself, Ben Abib, amongst others, our own DUP, we're warning that if there is a border in the Irish Sea, well, you see, what that would do is that would embolden Nicola Sturgeon and the Scottish nationalists to ask for exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Now, one day after that happened, on the 1st of January this year, well, Alex, what does it call him? Is it Alec Blackford? Is that what they call him? Or
Yeah, I think you know about Ian Blackford, and you.
Blackford.
The one who likes to rant down in Westminster about about everything, and how Scotland has every divine right to everything good and Westminster's bad. That one, that's the guy you're on about, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's how insignificant he is to me that I don't even remember his first name. But, you know, the very next day, and this is the sinister part, that he was out actually saying, well, that's good that Northern Ireland have got what they got, and, you know, why can't we have that in Scotland? And, you know, momentum will build on this. And Boris and Michael Gove, you know, they don't do the controversy. What they do is they look for the easiest way out. And, you know, I would claim right now, as others would claim, and we've been claiming this from October in 2018, that what this is this is the breakup of the United Kingdom in its embryonic form, because soon, I mean, we've already heard calls from people within the Welsh Assembly for exactly the same. I mean, and you know, why wouldn't they shout for a special relationship, and where what they can do is that they can have the mechanisms and they can have the backing of the EU, whereby they can put in place the agitation which will eventually break up the United Kingdom, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, this is the bigger picture, isn't it? Because that's where we're going, whether it's in Northern Ireland with, you know, devolved administrations, whether it's in Scotland with the SNPs, and certainly here in Wales as well, because the direction of travel seems to be on devolution, independence, and with, you know, they don't hide away from it. The reality is they want to rejoin the EU, whether that be Welsh Labour here in Wales, or even Plaid Cymru. You know, Adam Price, their leader, they're staunch. You know, want to rejoin the European Union, and I think there is something bigger to play, John, isn't there, in reality? And I think the people of Northern Ireland and Wales and, of course, Scotland need to wake up to the reality that it's more than just a political move, but actually it's a breakup of a union, actually, that would have devastating consequences for the citizens and the constituents that they represent. Because I take for Wales as an example, we have a deficit of about 13-14 billion pounds. We're a small country, 3 million people. We don't have the industry or the withal or the entrepreneurship to be able to survive as a country. But there's this pipe dream of independence that really would make the people of Wales suffer greatly, and we would see poverty levels, and they're high now. 200,000 children, according to Oxfam and the Joseph Rowntree Association, saying that 200,000 children in Wales are living in poverty, going without basic needs. 1 in 3 children here in my constituency of Blaenau Gwent, where I stood in 2009 in the election, you know, they're living in real poverty, and this shouldn't be the case. And it'll only get worse if these devolved administrations take power, more politicians and more markets, and breaking up the union. We are stronger together than we are apart, aren't we, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Richard, I look at the entire situation on a broader scale, I guess, and that's in terms of what's coming down our line is greater than having been even part of the European Union, and that is globalization. And what that does is that removes power even further away from us. And, you know, I'm going to say that whenever power is close at home, well, you have a chance of changing the circumstances. You have a chance of getting out and protesting and lobbying the politicians that live near you. But whenever they live too far away, I mean, you can do all the shouting that you want, and there's no way that you're ever going to change anything. And I think they learned that, Richard, from what has been happening incrementally over the years as a part of, I guess, corporations on a global scale taking control of certain things. You know, for example, I mean, who has ever tried to phone, say, for example, Sky TV to get a problem sorted out, or even BT, and you're put through to a call center, which I call a buffer zone, which is probably in India somewhere, and you maybe can't fully understand the people that you're speaking to, and you can never get any decisions made. All you're doing is you're talking to a buffer zone, a wall put in place, and you can never ever get at the decision makers. And that's unfortunate, because this is where your Welsh nationalists want to take you, this is where your Scottish nationalists want to take you, your so-called Irish nationalists. Now, one thing I'm going to say about nationalism is it's not about giving your country away, it's about keeping your country. And, you know, I just wonder, do they all need a rebrand? Because certainly today in 2021, they're not actually standing up for the things that they're claiming to stand up for, and that is nationalism.
Yeah, good point, John. John, so your thoughts then obviously are quite clear. Obviously, the Northern Ireland Protocol has been a disaster. That I think that the UK government, I don't think we've heard the end of this. Clearly, it's going to be an ongoing negotiation in Westminster, but it's something that needs to be resolved because it can't continue as it is now. I mean, what are your hopes and aspirations then, John, for Northern Ireland? And of course, the DUP. Now, I've not listened to Sammy. I like Sammy Wilson, by the way. I'm a big fan of Sammy Wilson. I just like the way he speaks, and he doesn't pull any punches. He's a good old, good speaker in that sense. I just wonder, and Arlene Foster as well, because they feel slightly betrayed by all of this. So what is your hopes and aspirations now for this whole Northern Ireland Protocol?
Yeah, well, where our fight lays right now, and this is unfortunate, but our fight lays with our own politicians. And, that I speak to our own politicians and they tell me that they're on our side. Well, I tell them that they need to act like they're on our side. And, I can see that they're in a very, hard position. They're in a bad position right now because if they do one thing, there is repercussions, and if they do the opposite thing, well, there's also repercussions. But what I would see is that you always have to stand up for what is right. And I say that the United Kingdom is the greatest union that the world has ever seen. I'm going to make a statement here and say that we should always have union first. And that's no matter what. And that's no matter what the cost in terms of politics, no matter what the personal cost, or no matter what, even if these people who are politicians, if they don't get their, their lordship, or they don't get their advancement in politics, well, what we need politicians that wants to stand up for the United Kingdom. Because here's the problem if they don't, is that let's say that Northern Ireland ends up separated. Now, I'm going to say, I'm not a defeatist. As people of Northern Ireland, they're not defeatists, and we will literally fight tooth and nail. And I don't mean in a physical way, but certainly in the realm of politics. And we'll hold our politicians to their feet to the fire. But I'm going to say that if Northern Ireland somehow ends up separated, and it's not over yet, what will happen then is that if England, Scotland, and Wales end up on their own, and if Scotland then goes next, then Wales goes, then England's left on their own. You see, here's what's happened. England has then been isolated, and everybody else is part of the EU, and then they will have absolutely no. They will have to go into the EU. They'll be isolated. They'll be on their own, and everybody will surround them.
But it's isolation and protectionism, John, in it. And John, if you could, if you could have like 30-second say to Boris Johnson, what would you say to him?
Boris, I wouldn't like to be the Prime Minister that breaks up the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has been around for a very, very long time. So many people have fought and died and gave themselves in order to protect that United Kingdom. And, what is unfortunate is that you may go down in history as the Prime Minister that followed through from Theresa May, but you, sir, will be the Prime Minister that actually managed to break up the United Kingdom. Now, you might think that it's okay for you because you can go on and you can be part of this globalization. But what you will learn is that globalists don't like conservatives. And because that you've been a conservative, what happens when you get to that table is that you'll be dispensed with and replaced with people that they actually align with. So I think that you've made the wrong move. And I think that if this goes the way that certainly the trajectory is heading now, you will live to regret the day that you ever put in place the Northern Ireland Protocol.
Well, John, thank you ever so much. Our time is almost up, but I can't let you go without mentioning the rugby last week, because you know that, of course, Wales beat Ireland. So I had to get that in there. And, of course, tomorrow, I'm not sure who Ireland are playing, but Wales have got Scotland. So let's hope the Welsh beat the Scottish. But, John, thank you so much for coming on. Tell us a little bit about your own show, John, Restore, and where people can find out more about you.
Yeah, Restore GBNI on Facebook and also on YouTube, and we run a little live show just similar to what Richard does here. So we go out live on a Monday, and we go out live on a Monday to people in Northern Ireland. We go out live on a Wednesday right around the United Kingdom, and we have guests on from right around the United Kingdom discussing United Kingdom politics. Richard, there's another platform that we're also another project that we're involved in, and this is a very, very important project. And this also would be on Facebook, and this would be on YouTube. And we are part of a project called Forgotten Voices Media. And what Forgotten Voices Media does is that it puts out the stories of the real life victims of Northern Ireland Troubles, and how the victims are being set aside, whilst the terrorists right now, they have immunity from prosecution. And victims right now, they've lost loved ones, Richard, and they don't have any chance of getting any justice for those loved ones. And what we do through Forgotten Voices is that we scratch the surface with those victims, and we tell their stories in a way that right now the truth is being, the history is being rewritten in favour of the terrorists. I mean, the terrorists have been put in Northern Ireland government, and they're being hailed as peacemakers, whilst victims, whilst they don't have any recompense, or they can't get any justice for their loved ones. So at Forgotten Voices Media, we aim to rewrite, or we aim to write the stories, we aim to tell the stories, we aim to document those stories in order that future generations could actually see the real truth and how that it happened in Northern Ireland.
Well, John, I really appreciate you and all that you're doing at Restore GBNI, and thank you ever so much for coming on Rich Politics today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on to talk about the Northern Ireland Protocol. And of course, I'm just a supporter of ditching it, getting rid of it, because it shouldn't be there, because we're one United Kingdom. It's Great Britain and Northern Ireland together. That's what it says on my passport, and that's how it should be for the rest of us. I just want to say a huge thank you, John, for coming on, and looking forward to having you on another time again.
Richard, thanks very much, and thanks very much for your listeners for taking the time to watch and listen. And till next time, Richard, thanks very much.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. That's John Yates, a good friend of mine from Belfast. I love that Belfast accent. It's great, isn't it? It's better than a Welsh accent. It's not as good as our Welsh national anthem, I have to admit. But seriously, I want to thank John for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure having him on, and I hope you've learned something. And of course, you know, you're entitled to your own opinion. That's what life is about. You know, free speech, free democracy, freedom of thought. Well, we hope so anyway, given the way the government's going. They want to censor everything, don't they? But thank you for tuning in tonight. Friday night, you're on Rich Politics. Don't forget, we're back live on Sunday night with my guest correspondent, news correspondent for the US, Kai Dewar, talking about the Trump impeachment. Yeah, it's still going on. Donald Trump hasn't gone anywhere, you know. And of course, I'll have a special guest on. Matt McKilloyne will be on with me as well to discuss a whole range of subjects on devolution and how it's been a disaster for the people of Wales. So I hope you can tune in next time, which is Sunday night, live here on Rich Politics. I'll catch you soon.